Damn, baby girl, yeah, you look fly, yeah, you look fly, yeah, you look fly. You got it going on, can't even lie, and the booty crazy. Oh my God, yeah, why you gonna do it like that? Put that ass all on me. Niggas don't even know what to do with all that. No lie, no cap.
Welcome back to my channel, or whatever. Today we spilling tea, honey. I recently read The Mess, Robyn Crawford's A Song for You. I'm gonna do a little book review. This is my first book review, so bear with me. I didn't even like watch other ones. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I wrote down some stuff that I wanted to cover that I thought was like, we need to talk about it. I don't know any other people in real life who read this book, so that's why I'm doing this YouTube video, because I just need to like talk about this. I know that like I see people on my Twitter feed and my Instagram feed who are reading it, but we don't have an official book club, y'all. So I'm about to just go through this and just go through the highlights about like what I liked, what I didn't like, what I understood, what I learned, all that stuff. First things first, the name of the book is A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston by Robyn Crawford. I think it's important to acknowledge that Robyn has her own story to tell, and she has the right to tell her story. Her story just so happens to involve someone who's very well known, but it's still her story. It's the life that she lived as an individual, and she has every right to tell her story, whether she did it today, whether she did it when people were asking her to, or if she did it 50 years from now. It's still her story to tell. So I find it very interesting that people are like, Robyn, why is she speaking up now? She need to just take that shit to the grave, and like she can't be talking about Whitney and all this stuff. But like, Robyn's story has been told by everybody but her. If you've seen the Bobby Brown movie, Robyn's in that. If you've seen the Whitney Houston Can I Be Me documentary, Robyn's mentioned in that. The whole documentary was basically about the relationship without having the inside knowledge from Whitney or Robyn. So what the fuck, you know, like there's only two people in that connection that can tell you what the tea is for real. So I think that Robyn deserved to share her story and to get this shit off her chest, because from reading the book, it sounds like this was therapy for her. Like this was like her finally being able to really let go. Whitney and Robyn, they met when Robyn was 19 and Whitney was 17 at this like summer camp thing. Whitney was lit then, okay? Robyn said when she first met her, Whitney pulled a joint out her bra and a pack of cigarettes. That tells you all you need to know, honey. She was lit even at 17. Like, she was just a real hood nigga, like basically, who just so happened to be able to sing. Whitney was a preacher's kid. If you know any other preacher's kids, they are bad as hell. They want to rebel against everything because they're so raised in these little boxes and these little bubbles, and they have to be perfect in front of everybody else. But in real life, they're lit, they freaky, they do drugs, they steal, they do all the type of shit you're not supposed to do because it's so repressed in them. So they met at the summer camp and they proceeded to build a friendship. The way that Robyn describes their friendship is very gentle, it's very sweet, it's very innocent. And if anyone's ever been, it reminds me of like your first crush, or I don't know if you've ever been gay. It reminds me of that first time you like somebody and you know that you're not really supposed to, so you guys hang out all the time and there's this energy between you that you don't really talk about, but you both feel it, and everyone around you sees it, but you're not ready to acknowledge it yet, so you just be like, that's my best friend. Like, a lot of us have this story, so it was extremely relatable to me that Robyn described that, and I think that she described it very well. It's extremely innocent. It is like the essence of innocence to me when you make your first connection with someone that you like, that you're not supposed to be liking. She then goes in to describe the first time that they were physically intimate. Robyn did not go into details in this book about like their sex life or anything like that, despite like criticism from the saints. She does not use the word sex. even in the interview she's been doing during her little press tour, whatever, she does. Everyone wants to know if they was fucking. They want to know, like, did she strap her down? Like, all these like weirdo details that Robyn does not go into the book. If that's what you're looking for, she does not spill that tea. The way that she describes their physical intimacy is very pure and very innocent. Whatever energy we had between us all that time was expressed through our bodies that night. It was free and honest. It was tender and loving. We both wanted to touch and explore each other, and we did until we fell asleep in each other's arms. That is so like relatable and pure. Like, if you remember the first time, for all my queer people, that you got to express yourself physically with someone that you cared about, it reminds me of that innocence of like, we don't really know what we're doing, but we just want to touch each other in places. Like, we want to just be as close as possible to each other and like make each other feel good. And that is the way that she described their physical relationship. That is the only time she describes their physical relationship. The physical aspect of their friendship lasted about 2 years. She never goes into labels like, oh, I'm gay, or Whitney was gay. Like, they didn't really, and to this day I don't think Robyn labels herself as a lesbian. It just basically describes like the deep connection that they shared. So they did that for about 2 years, and Whitney's career started to blow up, and slowly but surely, like, she was about to sign her deal with Arista, and Robyn was supposed to be like her ride or die, her assistant, and they were gonna blow up together, and they had this like, we getting out the hood together type of dream. I'm a ride or die, like, you my best friend, like, without you I ain't gonna make it type shit. So shortly before or after she signed the deal, I couldn't remember, when she signed her record label contract, Whitney came in and gave Robyn a Bible. I'm sure you've seen clips about this, and she basically was like, we can't do the physical thing anymore because they'll use it against us, but I'm asking you to love me unconditionally without the condition that we have to be physical. Like, can everything stay the same but we won't be physical? So basically she asked her to be her dyke. I want you to be my dyke without fucking, basically, is what she asked. And Robyn was like, yeah, I love you unconditionally, I'm your ride or die, I'm down. And so they wrote down their feelings in this Bible and closed it up, and then that was it. They moved in with each other shortly after in separate rooms, and they continued to be best friends, but closer than best friends. They were intimate with each other, but not sexually, if that makes sense. Like, Whitney kept Robyn in her pocket, and Robyn allowed her to. This is where I have the problem, because I understand codependency and trauma, and they were trauma bonding with each other. Whitney needed Robyn because of, she knew that she needed someone in her pocket as she continued to blow. She knew she was destined for greatness. Like, she never doubted that she was about to be this huge superstar or whatever. So she knew that she needed somebody in her pocket that knew her, who had her best interest at heart and was ride or die for her. And she found that in Robyn. And Robyn, because of the way that she was raised and the trauma that she had experienced, she wanted connection. She had a lot of family issues growing up with having an abusive father, and her mother having issues as well. And then she had mentally ill siblings. Her brother and her mother both passed away from HIV/AIDS. So Robyn had a lot going on in her personal life, and I think that her trauma combined with Whitney's trauma, they bonded in that, and it created an unhealthy codependency. If you know anything about codependency, typically there's someone who is the needy person, and then there's someone who is there to like super save a hoe. And that was the relationship they had. Whitney was extremely needy, and Robyn was like, I'm gonna save you, I'm gonna be that person who's like there for you. And that relationship continued, and it was cool for a while for both of them, until the drugs started to come into play even heavier, because they were using drugs from the time they were like 14, 15 until Whitney passed away. Well, Robyn backed away from the drugs in their like 30s. She got sober, but they used to do drugs together all the time. When I say drugs, I mean coke, weed, pills, There was no mention of anything strong like heroin or like crack or anything like that. It was mostly just cocaine and weed and alcohol. Whitney was a bad influence, and one thing I will say about Robyn is that she's not, in the book, she did not write it like this. She wrote it very gently, and she never blamed Whitney or even said that Whitney was a bad influence. She basically just said like Whitney was who she was. Whitney was herself at all times, and she was focused on getting what she wanted. She was all about herself to a certain extent. What started to happen was Whitney started to get more poppin'. It became harder for Robyn to be super safe a hoe for Whitney, because Whitney had all these other people around her telling her what she wanted to hear. So if you know anything about being in a codependent relationship, the main aspect of being in a codependent relationship or being that person for that needy person is being able to give them what they're not getting from other people, or that thing that they feel like they're lacking. You're there for them, and you're that and that, and that was harder for Robyn to provide as more people began to be in Whitney's life. Whitney was a fuckboy. Like, let's be real. Like, Whitney was a fuckboy to this girl. Whitney wanted Robyn to be there, and Whitney wanted Robyn to love her as if they were fucking, but they weren't fucking, and she did not want anybody else close to Robyn. In the book, Robyn describes several times, when I say several, I mean like 2 times, 2 maybe 3 times, where she would get close to another female either on tour or outside of work, and Whitney would be pissed about. I think she fired a background dancer because Robyn kissed her. Just like that type of shit. But also, you don't want to fuck me, but you don't want me to fuck nobody else. Like,
what is that?
And like, Robyn would allow this to go on because, again, Robyn was also codependent in this situation, and she felt like she's the only one who could be there for Whitney. She's the only one who can save her, so to speak. Robyn was out with a girl, like walking around or something at the park, and Whitney needed her and couldn't find her. Robyn was with a girl, so when Whitney found out where she was, she slapped her and was like, did you kiss the bitch? Sis, what difference does it make if I kiss the bitch if you not trying to fuck me? Like, I don't understand why. Why are you... Nevertheless, Robyn was like, I realized then that I couldn't, you know, do that type of stuff, and I had to be there for Whitney. Red flag. At the same time, Whitney was out fucking niggas and dating, but Robyn wasn't doing shit about it. In fact, Robyn would get mad and Whitney would be like, get over it, bitch. Like, you need to clear. Robyn had a whole hissy fit because Whitney was fucking Jermaine Jackson and didn't tell her. And Whitney walked in there and was like, you done? Can you clean this up when you finish? Like, Whitney was a fuck boy. She was really that nigga. Like, she had that type of energy where it was just like, you still my bitch, and what? Like, you still gonna ride or die for me, even if I'm not fucking you. Like, I got you in my pocket, and I know it and you know it. Something that really stuck out in the book to me that Robyn cleared up a bit, that I already knew was the case, was Whitney's relationship with Sissy. We knew that Sissy is not the most soft person in the world, and we saw a glimpse of it in, if you guys have seen that Whitney Cannot Be Me documentary, you saw Sissy talking about Janet Jackson like that bitch can't sing, and like all this like rugged, like gangsta ass talk. That's who she is, like, all the time. And then she gives the appearance of the church lady with the church clothes and singing gospel and stuff, but really she's like, she's tough. Whitney had mommy issues. She had really bad mommy issues, and what I mean by that is she did not have the emotional relationship with her mother that it feels like she craved. She never received acceptance or affirmation from her mother. She received criticism and a sternness. If you ever seen Cissy Houston, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Robyn describes the first time she met Cissy. They were at the house, and Robyn's sister was sitting on the couch and had her feet on the couch because she was cold, and Cissy walked in there and was like, get your damn feet off my couch, or like something mean like that. And it was just like, whoa. Like, so Robyn called Cissy Barracuda or Cuda or some shit like that because she's so aggressive. and she would use that aggression towards Whitney as well, towards her self-esteem. She mentioned several times about how Sissy would make comments about Whitney's appearance and her hair and this and that, and it created a complex within her. She never felt good enough. She never felt like, you know, being the powerhouse that she was, she didn't see her own greatness because her mother didn't. Either her mother saw it and resented it, or her mother didn't see it. I don't know which one it is. Robyn suggests that Sissy was jealous of Whitney's success, and that, you know, Sissy was trying to be a singer too, and she was known as a famous background singer, but she did not receive the recognition and spotlight that Whitney got. So Robyn kind of suggests that Sissy was jealous of her, which could be the case. You know we have mothers who are broken and they don't really know how to parent, and that can manifest in their relationships with their daughters, especially when their daughters are living the dream that they had. Also, something that Robyn clarifies is Bobby is not the villain that everyone tried to make him out to be. I think over the years that narrative has kind of like gone down, but Robyn doesn't really talk very negatively about Bobby. She gives examples of things that happened that we're already all aware of, like Bobby spitting in Whitney's face, or cheating on her, or lying and things like that. These are all things that we knew. We knew Bobby was crazy and unstable and a fuckboy. We knew that already. But she doesn't speak about, like, she said that he never hit her despite like rumors of, in that documentary Can I Be Me, they spoke about like Robyn and Bobby physically fighting, and Robyn is like, that never happened, like that's not true. Bobby never put his hands on me. You know, we may have had disagreements, but we really didn't interact that much. To be clear, shit went left with Whitney with the drugs before Bobby Brown. Whitney had issues when she met Robyn. She had issues when before Bobby, before Robyn. She had issues within her own family that were not the fault of Robyn or Bobby. I hate that people try to blame them for her struggles, because from what I've read and what I've seen and the biographies and the documentaries, and even Sissy put out a book, Whitney's family was trash, okay? Trash. Mama, daddy, brothers. She don't have no sisters. She was the only brothers and her mama. They was all trash. The wives that the brothers married, trash. They all did drugs together, all the siblings and the siblings partners. And Robyn, Whitney had Robyn sniffing coke, honey. Whitney had Robyn in the projects, in the J's, like trying to score dope from random ass dealers and shit. Like, Robyn speaks about the Greatest Love Tour in 1986, which she named the Greatest Drug Tour. I guess other people called it as that because every city they went to, the drug man was right there helping them cop or whatever. And she met Bobby in 1989, so this was 3 years before Bobby, that she was getting high as a motherfucking kite. She didn't start canceling gigs and shit until she met Bobby, because like their trauma bonded together just created the worst effect ever. But it's very interesting that Robyn actually was more of an ally to Bobby in this book than others might have wanted, or others might have thought. Whitney's family held her back, not Robyn, not Bobby. Whitney's brothers were trash. I believe it was Gary who was really on drugs. Like, Gary was doing crack, and then Michael was the drug man. He was the plug on the road or whatever. And Sissy would turn a blind eye when they would be like, when Robyn would be like, yo, Gary, Michael, they high as fuck, bro, like they can't. And Sissy would be like ignoring it. You know, that mentality that we have sometimes in the Black community, especially the elders, where it's like we just don't look at it, we sweep it under the rug. Sissy was known for that, and that blew up and manifested into complete chaos for the Houston family in general. By the time Bobby came around, Whitney Houston was extremely vulnerable to the chaos that would be created with the connection with Bobby. She was already on a downward spiral with the drug and being taken advantage of by the label. And there are only two people who loved Whitney Houston unconditionally: Bobby Brown and Robyn Crawford. Both of them have their own traumas, and mixed in with Whitney's created a huge trauma storm. But their loves were very pure, both Whitney, Bobby, and Robyn and Whitney, although on two different spectrums. Robyn goes in to discuss the final time, or when she finally had enough of the Whitney, Bobby, drug, sissy drama. Is, I guess, you know, Whitney was known to cancel gigs a lot at the prime time of her and Bobby's mess. And so she kept canceling a meetup with George Michael. And you know, George Michael was big, like in the late 80s, early 90s. Rest in peace, George Michael. And so Robyn bought him some shirts to say like, yo bro, I'm sorry, we fucked up, but you know, we still fuck with you and maybe you'll still fuck with us. Here are some Versace shirts or whatever the fuck they were. So when she meets up with Whitney and Bobby, she goes, oh yeah, Whitney, I sent George some shirts so that, you know, we could say we sorry or whatever. And Bobby blew up like, you sent some shirts to another man from my wife? And then Robyn was like, yes, like the fuck. And so they started arguing or whatever. Robyn was like, I don't have to deal with this bullshit. This is bullshit. I fucking quit. And so Whitney didn't say shit. And then Robyn stormed out. And supposedly Whitney said after Robyn left, that bitch ain't going nowhere. And that's just another example of the codependency that is there. It's like, I know I have you. You ain't going nowhere. I got you. Like, this is what we do. You know what I'm saying? You can have your storm. You can storm out. You can have your little fit. But I know you're not going nowhere because you mine. And I got you in my pocket, period. But little did she know, Robyn actually she was at her breaking point and she was done. She could no longer deal with the chaos, because at that point Robyn had gotten sober. Robyn was dating a new person on the low and she was just like over it, and she knew, she started to believe that she deserved better. So once Robyn left, it's clear that Whitney continued to spiral downhill and ultimately to her demise. I believe that Whitney low-key resented Robyn a bit, because it was like one of those relationships where you love them but you also fucking hate them at the same time, because they remind you of everything that you can't be or you can't have. The reality is homophobia played a really big role in the demise of Whitney Houston. Whitney knew that the one person that she really fucked with and she really cared about, she was not allowed to be with. And she knew that she had to make a choice early on between pure love, connection, intimacy, and her career, her family, acceptance from the public, because we're thinking like early 80s, like being gay was not cool. A lot of the misconceptions about AIDS and things like that. Robyn and Whitney both knew that they would never be able to live the life that they probably wanted to live, just because of the times that they grew up in. So I think that that also ate away at Whitney's soul, because Robyn speaks about Whitney calling after she left and just, you know, being very vague and very like not saying what it is, but just like, hey, just checking on you, you know, regular shit you do when you're stuck. Like, she was stuck, and that's just the reality of it. And that really sucks for her, that her life turned into not hers anymore and she was not allowed to be herself. Something that confirmed my theory of codependency is Robyn mentions, even after she left, even after she moved on, even after she was dating this new person and they had a family, she told her new wife that if Whitney ever called, the door has to be open for her to come. I have to be able to help her. I have to be able to save her, I guess. And the wife agreed to this, which I think is crazy, because it's like, I get it. This person needs help. This person needs a lot of help, but you can't save her, and you can't save her. She has to save herself. And that's something that Robyn speaks on in the last few chapters, is her really taking time to close the Whitney Houston door and focus on herself and saving herself first. She acknowledges the codependency, not in that language, but in other words, you know. She acknowledges that she was super caught up in Whitney's trying to be super save a hoe for Whitney and not really focusing on the things that she needed to heal from. So she went to therapy and like got her shit together, and ultimately it just was not enough time for her to reach back out and try to, you know, be the friend that Whitney needed her to be. Robyn loved Whitney, but Robyn couldn't save Whitney from her demons, and that's sad. It's sad that this woman who was so great and so powerful and so pure, and like, I don't know, I think that Whitney had this energy that was fun and real and hood, and she was forced to be boxed into, she was born in the wrong time, and that's just the truth of it. If she was born now, she would be able to flourish and be whoever she wanted to be, gay, straight, bi, no label, queer, whatever the fuck, because labels are a facade. Labels aren't real, you guys. Anyway, that's another speech for another day. But she would be allowed to just be herself. And something that Whitney would always say is, can I be me? And the reality was, at that time, no, we didn't want you to be you. Society would not allow you to be you. Your family would not allow you to be you. The media would not allow you to be you. They wanted, I wasn't born, I mean, I was like 5, so they wanted you to be who they wanted you to be, and that killed her. From birth, she was never allowed to be who she was. The book was extremely well written. Robyn even speaks about the funeral and how, you know, she got to go to the funeral, and she speaks about seeing Bobby and how now these new people who were her handlers, like, where were y'all when she passed away? Like, what the fuck were y'all doing? She speaks about, like, Pat Houston and all the people who were speaking about those interviews when she passed away, just being sus. And the reality is, Pat Houston is sus as fuck. That bitch is sus, like, sus, super sus. And I'm not even saying that because Robyn said anything crazy in the book, but just like, her energy is really weird, and just some of the moves that she made right around that time and right after, even with Bobby Chris, is just like weird. Like, weird. Like, why would you do a reality show right after this girl has lost her mama? Like, that's weird. Like, why are you having a hologram tour of Whitney Houston? That's weird. Like, we don't need that shit, bro. Like, let the lady rest in peace. We can stream her shit on Spotify. Like, no, it's just unnecessary and weird, and I don't like her energy. It's just, no, it's just not good. So I don't know. Overall, I would say that it was an extremely well-written book. I read this shit in like a day, and it's thick as hell. I read this shit in like a day. It's thick as hell. It's a really good read. I recommend you guys read it if you're into like autobiographies, and like if you're into Whitney Houston or Robyn. But overall, Robyn Crawford is, in my opinion, it doesn't feel like a money grab. It doesn't feel like spiteful. It doesn't feel like, you know, she's broke and she's just trying to get money, because the reality is, it's been so long that her money offers was probably way higher when Whitney first passed away, or when she first left, or even when Bobby Chris passed away. She probably had higher money offers. Either way, whether she did this book for money or not, she's still entitled to tell her story. It's her story to tell. It's her life that she lived, and she just so happened to live it with Whitney Houston. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I enjoyed reading this book. If you guys have any suggestions of any other books you would like me to read or review, holla. I like to read. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get, the hood or the hippie. Peace.